think wins in fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me?
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd?
Not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
It's the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fight.
Terence Crawford responded boldly to Floyd Mayweather's claim that he could beat him, declaring he would defeat Mayweather even in his prime. Crawford emphasized his legacy rests on never ducking opponents and always accepting any challenge. He reminded fans that history will remember him as a fighter who faced everyone put in front of him, hinting at Mayweather. Crawford made it clear he would not avoid such a matchup if it were possible.
Then he started going like this. Man, that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career is all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me this question. I always be like, man, it's whatever they opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, you know. But one thing they can't say is I ducked anyone. You know, I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Dan Raphael has argued that Terence Crawford has reached a point in his career where fighting again is no longer necessary to secure his place in boxing history. According to Raphael, Crawford's legacy is already undeniable, as he has dominated multiple divisions, unified titles, and consistently defeated elite opponents without ever showing vulnerability. He emphasizes that when a fighter achieves this level of greatness, the focus shifts from improving oneself to preserving a legacy and embracing well-earned recognition. Raphael believes Crawford's resume has already exceeded what many expected, and taking on unnecessary fights would do little to enhance his historical standing. Instead, his unmatched dominance, especially in recent years, has already solidified him as one of the sport's true all-time greats, deserving of last.
What does Terence Crawford do now? Like, what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that, maybe that ultimate chance if he goes up again? Do you say, you know, what do you do?
I don't quit. Yeah, I mean, you know, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggesting about possibly pursuing a fight with Lewis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yeah.
That's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fan. So I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, but I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy's really big. And that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to two weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And, you know, he's going to have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not going to necessarily keep belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. You know, for example, you know, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. That was, you know, fight of the year against Lester Martinez, candidate for fight of the year.
The emphatic fashion in which Terence Crawford dismantled Canelo Alvarez has sparked intense debate within the boxing world. Fans and analysts quickly drew comparisons between Crawford's performance and Floyd Mayweather's earlier win over Canelo. While Mayweather defeated a younger, less experienced Canelo, Crawford showcased complete dominance against a far more seasoned version of the Mexican superstar. This contrast has led some to question whether Crawford should now be considered superior. However, analyst Luke Thomas cautions against rushing to that conclusion, noting the very different career trajectories of the two fighters. Mayweather was already established as a global superstar at a younger age, consistently taking on elite opposition early in his career. Crawford, by contrast, only began receiving widespread recognition much later, largely due to poor promotion and lack of visibility. As a result, His peak years have arrived later in his career. Thomas argues that while Crawford's victory was remarkable, career timing and paths must be weighed carefully before placing him above Mayweather historically.
This was a masterclass. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. People who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA, because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford, because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in this whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. And you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao, because he got these opportunities so late.
It's the problem with Bud's career, right? It blooms kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He's finds you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the terms of it. It's just...
Buddy McGirt emerged as one of the strongest supporters of Terence Crawford following his emphatic victory over Canelo Alvarez, calling performance a masterclass in dominance. McGirt noted that from the opening bell, Crawford seized control, refusing to let Canelo dictate the pace or unleash his trademark aggression. He highlighted that the win was so decisive that a rematch would be pointless, as the gulf in skill and execution was clear to anyone watching. For McGirt, this triumph represented the defining moment of Crawford's career, the signature victory that cements his legacy. By defeating a fighter of Canelo's stature so convincingly, Crawford has silenced any doubts and earned permanent recognition among boxing's elite. McGirt insisted that Crawford has nothing left to prove. His dismantling of Canelo has carved his place in history, ensuring his name will stand proudly.
Yes. Like, what fight were they watching? Right. I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close, right? I mean, come on, man. It's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got in and dominate from beginning to end. Then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is, and you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those scorecards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But, I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at a stage in his career right now, it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? What we saw that night, it's the stage Canelo's at right now. I mean, he's fought everybody, he's did everything. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He lost to Terence fair and square. He passed the torch. So we're gonna have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
When comparing Terence Crawford to Floyd Mayweather, analysts frequently point to the mental dimension of Mayweather's game as a defining factor that sets him apart. While Crawford is universally recognized as a technical master, capable of switching stances, making mid-fight adjustments, and systematically dismantling his opponents, many argue that Floyd possessed an added layer of psychological control that elevated him further. Mayweather not only fought with unmatched skill, but he also engaged in mental warfare, manipulating opponents into mistakes and stripping them of their strategies before the fight even unfolded. This aura of dominance and control, both physical and psychological, became his most dangerous weapon. In contrast, Crawford's brilliance lies purely in execution, with less emphasis on mind games. Historians note that while Crawford is remarkably close to standing alongside Floyd in greatness, it is this unique mental edge that cements Mayweather's position as one of boxing's most exceptional and complete champions.
Hagler, I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. But, this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it right, the best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough, Floyd's not a bad man, but there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked, gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights, and he was aerosmith.
For more than a decade, Terence Crawford has displayed world-class skills. Yet his reserved personality and lack of flashy self-promotion often left him underappreciated in the broader boxing landscape. Unlike fighters who thrive on theatrics and bold statements, Crawford chose to let his dominance in the ring define him. While this earned him admiration from boxing purists, it came at the expense of mainstream recognition during his earlier years. Only recently, with marquee victories over Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez, has a wider public begun to truly recognize his greatness. Critics, however, argue that this acknowledgement may have arrived too late. Crawford is now in the latter stage of his career, with limited time to build a mainstream legacy that could rival boxing's most celebrated icons, though he can still add to his accomplishments. The shrinking window of opportunity raises questions about how differently his career might have been perceived had the spotlight found him sooner.
Great he was. Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their eras equally.
Floyd Mayweather remains the gold standard of his era, and but Crawford now stands right beside him. Many argue there is no need to debate who is superior, as both men dominated their generations in extraordinary fashion. Yet, Mayweather has long drawn criticism for his reluctance to acknowledge other greats, famously refusing to place Muhammad Ali, widely regarded as the greatest of all time, above himself. With Crawford's recent accomplishments, particularly his emphatic victory over Canelo Alvarez, new questions have emerged about Floyd's ego and how he handles challenges to his status. Crawford's triumph has elevated him into the same historical conversations as Mayweather, a shift that seems difficult for Floyd to embrace. Critics suggest that Mayweather thrives on being the lone benchmark of boxing excellence, and when another fighter begins to share that pedestal, it bruises his pride. This perception of jealousy creates tension, framing Floyd as unable to accept others being celebrated on his level, and casting doubt on how he responds publicly to Crawford's growing legacy.
Him on par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. Very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right, because Floyd is now has a fight coming up, I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe this is going to be an exhibition.
Sean Porter spoke with Terence Crawford about the motivations behind taking on challenges many believed he could not overcome. Crawford explained that for years critics doubted his ability to compete at the highest level, questioning whether he truly belonged among boxing's elite. Instead of shying away, he embraced the pressure and used it as fuel to prove them wrong. His victories over Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez stand not only as career-defining moments, but also as personal vindication, silencing years of...
to him when you want to, not when he wants you to. And you know what I mean? That's how it was.
I know, I'm sorry, I know this is bad production, but we're gonna turn that phone to the side. I know, I'm thinking about Haiti right now. I'm like, you know better. That's better. Go ahead, Ant, go ahead.
Hey, but you know how, man, you know, me and Sean, we know you personally. I had people telling me, nah, man, this is a money grab. He just went up there for the money. I said, man, if you know this dude, but mentally, bro, I put you in the same category as Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. I'm like, he wants to be great. Y'all want the money, but I want to be great. Where'd that come from?
It's just, you know what I mean? Like, I think all the greats is just born with that competitiveness.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want me to accomplish the feat over Canelo. It wasn't that it wasn't possible. They didn't want me to be the one to do it because I was the one that they was blackballing for years. I was the one that they said, you know, wasn't gonna make it to this table. I was the one that they said couldn't sell. I was the one that they said, you know, made bad business decisions. So of course they don't want me to be the one to make it to the top and then conquer.
Porter emphasized that Crawford's willingness to confront adversity head-on reflects a rare mentality in boxing. Unlike fighters who take safer routes, Crawford deliberately sought out the toughest challenges to prove his place among the elite. This fearless mindset propelled him into discussions of all-time greatness, ensuring his legacy is defined not only by skill and talent, but also by his relentless determination, resilience, and refusal to shy away from any
all odds, because now it's a slap in the face to every person that ever wrote an article about me, about anything.
Probably the best fit of all. And a lot of people get mad at me because I said, when it comes from pound for pound that I ever seen in my lifetime, ever, I got Floyd and I got you. They're like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? I said, this is what I seen. I seen Bud, I seen Floyd. I can't talk about what happened in the 20s or in the 40s. I can talk about what I seen now. Do you feel like, Bud, you stamped your legacy and we're going to forever say, well, you could have beat this person, you could beat that person, you feel like you did it?
Of course, it's definitely going to be, it's already written in the history books. Like, before, everybody was already comparing me and saying things like that, but... Hold on. Yeah. Okay. But now, you know what I mean, it's like, Okay, so now he proven himself with a bigger, stronger guy in his weight division that he was undefeated in, that he was undisputed in. You know, so those things like that, you know, you can't ignore.
Hey man, how do you allow people not to put date limitations on you? Because when I gave motivation last week, I told them that, like how you motivated me to start my own company. And I remember you being in my living in my kitchen to start my own company. How do you allow no one else to put their limitations on you?
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned next time